Well, let's bring in Palestinian legal scholar and human rights attorney Noura Erakat for more on what we've been seeing with this exchange now, those 39 Palestinian prisoners released. And Noura, we've been seeing some scenes of celebrations in the West Bank tonight. How do you think these releases of prisoners are being received by Palestinians?
I think as all Palestinians who are living under captivity because of an ongoing occupation for 56 years, apartheid, and 75 years of settler colonialism, it's a bit of relief, but will not be lasting, despite the fact that they are released back into Palestinian society, because Israel remains the single authority and sovereign from the river to the sea and rules by military dictate and racist apartheid regime. Any of these Palestinians and much more can be rearrested for being on the wrong side of the street, driving on a segregated road, digging beneath the ground for water too deeply, for going to pray in Jerusalem without a military permit. So all of this is within a context. I also want to highlight, because of context to the audience, that Israel could have achieved this release, this exchange, precise exchange, in the first week of its onslaught against the Palestinians besieged in the Gaza Strip. It could have achieved it right before the ground invasion on October 27th. It could have achieved it before the gutting and the incursion of the Al-Shifa hospital. So as we continue to talk about these exchanges, let's ask ourselves, why aren't we insisting on political negotiations? We know that a military solution is not possible. And we know that Israel's campaign against Palestinians, that they say is targeting Hamas, but is actually collective punishment, is not enhancing their negotiating leverage, as this could have been achieved in the first week. And so we must also remember that there needs to be accountability at this point, and the fate of those Palestinians, now some 15,000 who have been killed, who can never be brought back to life as a result of the lack of accountability that Israel has been afforded.
Well, I do want to get to the humanitarian situation in just a moment, but as a Palestinian legal scholar, what more do we know about the prisoners here that were likely part of this exchange, and what kinds of charges they might have been convicted of?
So Israel controls the Gaza Strip as well as the West Bank under military law. Military law is the suspension of any civilian law, and therefore the ability to create new law, to apply it retroactively, to detain somebody without charge or trial, known as administrative detention. That's how 2,000 of the some 8,000 Palestinians are held prisoner without charge or trial. It's the presumption of guilt rather than the presumption of innocence. It's the inability to cross-examine your accuser as well as to see evidence before you, so that anybody brought arbitrarily before a military tribunal in Israel has a 99.9% conviction rate of being imprisoned. So there isn't really due process here. Anybody that we call prisoner is also a hostage, more or less, within the system because of the lack of accountability, because of the martial law regime. Amongst these, as I mentioned, are 2,000 that are held without charge or trial. 200 are children. Notably, Israel distinguishes its children, which it says are younger than the age of 18, but says that Palestinians are only children up until the age of 16, not 18. And so all of this reflects a very racist colonial regime. Much of this legal order is derived from British colonial rule between the institution of the Palestine Mandate in 1922 and the establishment of Israel in 1948. And so Palestinians are literally waging a struggle against a colonial regime for which there is no accountability. And instead, Israel is being supported by those who should be holding them to account.
Of course, it's important to note that Israel says all prisoners were legally detained under the law. I said, just to get to that humanitarian situation, of course, part of this deal as well includes aid into Gaza, a pause in the fighting. Do you think that this deal has been effective in getting aid to the people that need it in Gaza?
From what we've heard and what we've understood, there are less than the 400 trucks that are promised to go into the north. We also know that the Israeli army, according to Sky News, is actually sniping at those Palestinians who are trying to return to their home or check on their kin. We also know that people are suffering from preventable disease, including cholera. And so, no, none of the humanitarian aid suffices to do what's necessary, which is to end the siege and end the occupation and actually rehabilitate the situation. As to your point, and the audience should know this, yes, Israel detained them all by law, but this is an apartheid regime, according to Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, B'Tselem, and Yesh Din, as well as the Harvard Human Rights Clinic. Anything according to apartheid, which is a rule-based system, just as Jim Crow was a rule-based system, can be comprised of very cruel and unjust laws. And that is precisely what characterizes the Palestinian struggle for freedom. I really apologize,
but we'll have to leave it there. Noura Erakat, Palestinian legal scholar and human rights attorney, thank you so much for sharing your perspective.